All right, today we got Riley Bamber. Hopefully I'm saying that right.
You are.
So I want to kick it off with Riley is definitely a badass in the sense that there was very little chance of everything that happened to her opening her agency even happening. So it's a just a chance that I met Tommy at Topper Club, and she knew Jessica, who works here at the district office. Well, Jess kind of approached me and said, "Hey, do you know anybody down in Oklahoma that would be looking for protege and would be hired?" And so circumstance happened. Tommy's now granted though she was more than an hour away, working as a protege, completed the program in 6 months, did very well during that time, helped Tommy get to 100 life policies in that year, and then on top of that, opened her own agency, got her blue vase. And I'm gonna let her tell you more about that from here because I don't want to steal too much of her thunder. But she's just conquered a lot in a short period of time with farmers, and let's pick her brain on how she did it.
Hi, you guys. This is the first time I've done anything like this. I'm a little nervous. But I actually, I really feel like, I mean, I don't know how everybody else does it, but I feel like what I was up against that anybody can, and I'll tell you some of those things because he touched on it a little bit, but during protege and during these first 6 months of being an agent, I've been under duress and doing things completely different. My whole world got turned upside down. And that's what I'm sorry. I need to drink. I'm so sorry. Um, but my whole world kind of got turned upside down, and that's what led to all of this. So I really feel like that if you just get yourself in the right headspace, then you really can do anything. And I think there are some things that you need to um, kind of set in your mind and then set up for your agency, and that will help you. And I'll touch on those, but I want to kind of just tell you guys where I was at so that you know that you're capable of doing any of it. But so how I started with this, I was married for 18 years, found myself having to get a divorce. I had worked from home, had a home-based business, but no employees, no truly recognizable work experience. I mean, I had worked in sales, I had a lot of network marketing experience, and had done really well with that, but nothing out in the regular job field. So I was very nervous. I had two kids and was very worried that I wasn't going to be able to have the lifestyle or even close to it for my kids that I had before. Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know why this always happens when I start talking. But so I posted on Facebook and said, "Hey, I'm looking for like a legit job. Here's what I do." And Jessica was the first person and she wrote on it. She's like, "I'm calling you right now." And she knew because we'd worked together, we'd gone to school together. She knew my background. She's like, "I have the perfect thing for you. You're just gonna have to trust me." And I was like, "Okay, I trust you." Um, and it was probably like maybe 15, 20 minutes later, Tommy called me and said, "Are you willing to drive down to Bartlesville to come talk to me?" And I was like, "I don't even know where Bartlesville is, but sure." And I came down there having no idea what he was going to present to me. And he asked me about my background. We talked and he told me. And I took it as a leap of faith. I was like, I don't know why this would happen the way that this has happened if this isn't what's supposed to happen. I don't know where everybody lands on that stuff, but I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. Um, Tommy set a standard for me from the beginning, the very first time we met, and he said to me, "You want to be a rock star in this business, if you want to make money, if you want to take care of those kids, you have to sell life insurance. Period." And you guys have heard Tommy talk, so you know that that's kind of his mentality. Um, so I went into it thinking, I've got to sell life insurance. So I already believe in that stuff anyway. But that was where, like, I was like, well, this is actually a good thing. This is where I can actually connect. Yeah, the auto, the home, all that, but the life insurance is where I can really connect. So that was kind of the first step. Like I was saying, I was under complete duress because I was driving back and forth. I was trying to take care of kids. My divorce, I wanted it to be civil, but was quite ugly. I spent most days crying in my car to and from Bartlesville. Um, but I ended up selling just in protege over 13,000 in premium in 6 months in life insurance alone. And in my last month, well, yeah, my last month, so it was right before the end of December, we had to hit that 100 issued and paid, and I sold 8 policies myself that month alone. Most of those actually consisted of final expense policies, or we call them final expense graded death policies. um, so that was kind of my start and kind of how I got the momentum with life insurance. But then coming into retail, so I went live March 1st. I had sold one life policy while I was on reserve. And I'll get to why that matters. But then I went retail March 1st, and I almost a week into it became really, really sick. Ended up in the ER with a kidney stone, and then them calling me and saying, "You actually have another one, and we've got to get you to a urologist because it's really bad." And they got me to a urologist. The urologist said, "I think we can wait until April to get this out, but we have to do surgery." I was like, okay. Waited about another week, ended up getting sick again. And they said, "You have to have emergency surgery." So I ended up having to have emergency surgery to remove that kidney stone. This is all while I'm trying to train new producers. Nobody's licensed and appointed yet. So I was the only one writing for my agency, and sick. Had the surgery and then ended up with a post-op infection and then ended up with sepsis. So very, very sick. Then, we're starting to write life policies, getting them in. And I'm starting to get them trained. And then at first one that I wrote, the girl ended up losing her job and couldn't pay the life policy, and it canceled. Well, even though it was written during not when I was in retail, it actually counted against us. So we didn't just have to write 10 life policies to get Blue Base, we had to write 12 because we had to make up for the one that we lost. We had to like equal it out. We wrote the one that got lost, and we wrote another one to cancel it out. Then we had to write 10 more. So we ended up actually having to write 12 for Blue Base. So we were pretty far behind, in all honesty, or at least that's how it felt to me. But one thing that I would say is super important is that, and I don't know where you guys are at in your retail, like if you've started, and you can tell me if you want to. I don't know if there's like a chat thing or something. But one thing that was important to me and that I started out with is that I told myself all of my producers will be life licensed. I won't hire somebody that's unwilling to be life licensed. And that is the license I start them on. I have them get life licensed first, and then I have them go to PNC. And I know most people do it opposite, but the first thing that Tommy said to me was that if we were going to be rock stars, we had to sell life. So I wanted to build a culture from the get go, from the first time I talked to somebody and interviewed them, that life was a requirement. And in our office, my producers know that nobody gets a quote without a life quote. And they can throw me under the bus for it. They can say, hey, Rhiley requires us to give everybody a life insurance quote. I can do it on you, your kids, your grandkids. They start asking the questions and stuff like that. And what I have them say is, you can look at it both ways. I can give you the auto and the home without the life, and the auto and home with the life, and you can just pick what makes the most sense to you. Does that sound fair? And more oftentimes than not, those life insurance policies end up being low or no cost to them. So in the end, when you lay it out, when you lay the numbers out for them, most of the time people are like, yeah, I want that. And we have the most success with that approach in Bristol West. Farmers Now has the life discount, but it's not quite as much. It's 10% on Bristol. So those ones, we do have a tendency, like if you go look at it, most of our life policies that are attached, like as a household, are attached to Bristol. Because most of them end up being free or low or no cost. And we do, so I went and looked, we actually do sell a lot of IULs as well. Our district does a lot of IUL training, and we became very passionate about it. I also read the book, The Power of Zero, I think is what it's called. The Power of Zero. So that was really inspiring to me as well. But we do a lot of IULs for juveniles, and just market that. Like we talked a lot before school got in session about saving for college, and that the IULs are, yeah, everybody thinks it's taboo to talk about a death benefit for a juvenile. Nobody wants to think about that, but we say, oh, that's on the side. That's just an added perk. But what this policy is really about is saving for college, or if there's a medical emergency, or like all of these things. And then, we let them know when we're doing them, what the MEC amount is. So like the highest amount so that they can max fund it is. But we also let them know what the minimum is, and then tell them like, hey, this is something that you can, start off with what you can pay right now. Like you can tell me, hey, I can afford to pay $50, $100 a month. And here, maybe in a couple of years, I'll be able to afford more. And so that is one thing that working with the clients and telling them like, hey, this is something you can increase over time. You can, drop extra money into it to catch it up. And we've had a lot of success with those IULs as well, mostly for juveniles. But we have had some people that in their 20s and 30s that we've sold them to as well. That it just makes a lot of sense to them when we approach it as a way for them to gain the cash value, and talk to them about that and educating them. But I really think that it starts with creating that culture in the office. I really think that is the biggest thing, and that's up to the agent to decide, and when you're early in your career, like I think that I just went to Embrace, And I feel like the ones that are really struggling are ones that have just started PNC and they're trying to implement it and start, in the middle instead of from the beginning. So I really feel like starting from the get-go and saying like, hey, this is what we're gonna do. Um, and that making that like a goal and I do put some extra incentives, like we do a bonus board. Um, and so we do some extra incentives for selling life. Um, but yeah, I just make it a big deal.
So, Riley, I know usually one of the questions I get asked, and I know Jess gets asked a lot, is marketing tips and tricks. I know you said you put a life quote with every single auto and home quote that you do. Is there any others that you do to pivot the conversation to open up that conversation into life insurance?
So, um, what we do is we try to really create a personable environment with our clients. And so when we're asking questions, like we try to ask them questions about, their life and their kids and, you know, their home and all of that kind of stuff. But I think that the ones where we're struggling to have those personable conversations where it becomes easier to transition it. One of the things that's the easiest for us is we say, hey, I know you have your auto with, such and such company. Do you have your home and your life insurance with them as well? And oh yeah, I have my home, but I don't have life insurance, or I have life insurance with work, or and then we start to transition that conversation and say, okay, well, what kind of life insurance do you have with work? Do you know if it's a 75,000 or whatever, and what we're finding is that that's oftentimes not enough depending on what your needs are and things like that. It really just depends on what their situation is, but that transition is like when we haven't gotten in somewhere else, talking about kids or things like that, then that that is the transition statement that we kind of set up that everybody knows. But a lot of times too, we just because we're going to quote it for everybody, we just say, hey, so I know you called in to get an auto and home quote or an auto quote. Our boss requires us to do life insurance for everybody. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't talk to you about life insurance because it is the most important insurance. So I'm going to give you a quote for both, and you can decide what makes the most sense to you. Does that sound fair? And we find that doesn't make what makes the most sense to you, and does that sound fair? When you ask somebody, does that sound fair? I haven't come across anybody yet that has said no, ever. Because you're putting the ball in their court, you're offering them options for what's best for them. And we have had some people choose to not get the life insurance when we offer it that way, and that's fine as long as we're doing our job and bringing it up. But that's what I mean. I hear that with every single quote that they're on, and I just have a little sliding door. I'm right here by my producers, um, and I hear them say it all the time. You know, so I'm also they don't know this, but they're about to get little frames on their desks that say, if I forget to ask you about life insurance, I owe you a gift card. So that people that are in the office, like, and I think that holds them accountable too, to not forget about it, but they don't. And we also we go to events too. We're part of the Chamber of Commerce, and I don't know how you guys' chamber works, but our chamber puts on little events in our park. It's like back to school bash and game day in the park, like when we have a football game or whatever. And we show up at all of those events, and we don't focus on anything having to do with um, auto or home. Those come in, that's uh, low hanging fruit in my opinion. Um, but I think that like we bring and it's in the forms, or no, not forms. I'm looking on my computer. Sales tools. So under sales tools, there is a letter that is like school is back in session type thing. You have all your supplies. Do you have, a plan for college fund and life insurance? The one supply most important and most people forget. So it's like that. So we go in and edit that, and when we added a picture of us and put all of the producers' names and customized it and made it personable. And that's the only thing we hand out at those events. So we do toys and stuff for the kids. Like we have little games, we have a football throw, stuff like that. We entertain the kids and then approach mom and dad, grandparents, and say, hey, I have something for you as well. When you have a chance, take a look at this. Our information's on the bottom. And that kind of puts it in their mind, and it's not super aggressive, but people get the information. And what we found is that we don't have anybody actually calling into us, but then the next time we meet them, they're like, oh yeah, hey, you gave me that thing, and it opens a conversation. So that conversation has helped us a lot too.
Awesome. Well, Riley, if you're open to it, I'd love to open it to question and answer, because I know Thad, Jesse, Jason, Josiah. Heck, that's a lot of J's. Heck, what questions do you guys got? You got an experienced graduated protege, so you could ask everything from protege to life insurance. There, what questions do you guys got?
What's the biggest objection you usually get, and how do you overcome it?
The biggest objection that we get is they can't afford it.
Mhm.
They don't think they can afford life insurance. People are not educated on it, so they don't realize what they can or can't afford. And so when they say that, we say, oh, okay, well, I understand that. I usually bring up single mom. I get being on a tight budget. You're gonna have to whatever works for your situation. I get being on a tight budget, but most people just don't realize that life insurance is actually pretty affordable.
Mhm.
And so I tell them, can I give you a couple of options? You just hear me out. If you don't want them, totally cool, but at least you have the information in front of you.
Do you do better with the term value, permanent, or the IUL? What's kind of the mix? Or the value terms because they're a little bit more affordable? Are they kind of a higher percentage in the overall mix? Or I personally, I really love those IULs because just like you were stating, I mean, they can pay for college. They could make a 10-year-old a millionaire by the time they're 50. So I really like those.
Me too. Yeah, I've got IOLs on both my kids. So, yes. So the majority of what we have sold is IULs and graded death. And the reason for that is that we also do have a very high, and I don't know if it's where we live or what, but we do have a high clientele of 50 and up clients. So we kind of, do a needs analysis, see where their medical is, all of that stuff. We will try to run a value term if that is something that they're interested in. But we just seem to run across a lot of people that don't have a lot of need for that, and they want the final expense policy. Now we have had some higher premium final expense policies, because when we start talking to them about like what they need for final expenses. So we've done like a 15 to 20, and I just finished a $30,000 final expense policy as well. So just kind of looking at like what their credit card statement sits at monthly, and like what all of those final bills that, would be put on somebody else.
How do you handle all of the signatures? I sold a life on Friday. Had to mail him the paperwork to sign with the self-addressed envelope to mail back. I don't think I've received it back, so I'm going to need to follow up with him. But do you get a lot of that? Are you finding, or how are you doing it? Or do you do DocuSign, or
We mostly do e-sign.
you do? Okay, so you have your own DocuSign account, right?
I do. I actually have, our district has a DocuSign that we have access to. We just have to send it in. And then I've got,
We have that in our district, Keith?
We do.
We do?
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
we just have to send it into them and request it. So, and then I've got Adobe Acrobat, and I've got an account for that. Now I know Farmers New World Life, they will accept DocuSign. You have to have the little thing.
It's because of the wet signature. Do they consider a DocuSign wet signature versus just a digital with like Adobe?
So they will not accept Adobe. They will accept DocuSign.
Gotcha. Yep.
But do you guys not have the e-sign process on you do? So that's what we use majority of the time, unless we run into a little problem, and then we'll use the DocuSign.
The e-sign, is that through the life? I don't think
yeah, so hold on, let me see if I can. When you submit a new application, you click on the submit new application from the landing page. Oh, of course it's not letting.
There's a button at on the last page of the life application where you have to select that we did it over the phone, not in person, and then they send the documents out there. I've made that mistake a couple times here lately.
Yeah. So you just want to make sure that you go to the iGo application, so that you're getting the application signed electronically, and then make sure you click that button so that you don't have to go back and redo all your signatures and stuff. But yeah,
right,
I mean,
that's find a video on that.
Yeah, well, I was trying to open it up so I could share my screen and just show you, but it's being a pain. I don't think my computer likes me trying to open it while I'm on the video or something, because it keeps telling me I can't open it. Oh, now it's doing it. Okay. So you put the name in on your first page on case information. You put the name in, the birthday age. It does that, your case description, and then it says the state that you're in, product type. And then when you click on the find product type, there's 3 different selections. And there's one that says e-application. Or electronic application.
I think I know what you're talking about, because you have the 3 different options, I guess, to choose from, right? I usually pick the middle one.
So okay, so I'm going to show you, because it let me open it. Well, if I can do my screen. I'm not the most technically savvy person, so I apologize.
See it, share screen. Oh, there you go.
Okay, so right here, I go e-app. You
There
have
you
these, yes.
okay.
So if you click on that, you can do it. Now, if you're just quoting and doing an illustration like an IUL, and you click on this, you do your illustration, and then they want to go through it. There is a button when you go through your application that you can pick the e-app. But this is where, I mean, I usually just, like, if I already have sold it and I'm just doing the application, we do hard copy applications. Like, Tommy made up this thing and then I just saved it. So we do that so that we can just really quick take down the information and then tell them, like, if they want to stay on the phone, then we'll fill it out while they're on the phone. But we usually get off the phone and just say, hey, I'll give you a call back when you'll have that email. And then we give them a call back and say, okay, you should have an email. Do you see it? That it'll have the application. Use the last 4 of your social to get into it. Have them open it up, and so that. But we go through all of their documents and stuff when we bind policies. I have a 24-hour requirement that they need to get all their obviously, I don't know if you guys have Signal there, but other than Signal, because that takes 10 trips. But all of their documents, my producers are required to have all their documents done within 24 hours. So we just include this, even though there's not much they have to do on the e-app.
Initially, you go through the quotes illustration so you could print out the quote and show them. Then you come back and select the iGo e-app if they do want to move forward, so then they can sign everything electronically.
So let me see if I can show you a case that's not finished, and I'll show you.
You can run one on me.
Okay, so let me see if this one. Okay, so you have this application's already done, or this needs analysis quote, all of that is all done. So then you would just go to the application. And then you're gonna fill in that same information. And then when it gets, well, I mean, I can't put it in because she doesn't want it, but you're gonna have the option when you click this application to do it as an e-application. Like, there's a button you push.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, that makes it super simple. It's really rare. I think we've maybe done one that was an in-person with wet signatures.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
So, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not super like techie or anything. I've got a producer here that if I have a tech question, I'm like, Skylar, come help. I have no clue on that stuff. I don't do well with it, but this is how Tommy taught me. And this is one of the things, like, so the first time I did a life insurance quote with him, he sat there and had me sit over his shoulder and he did it in front of me. And then the next time we switched places and I did it and he stood over my shoulder and walked me through it. And from there, he just said, this is, and there was a few times where I had to say, like, well, what do I put here? What do I do here? But I mean, we just get everybody so used to how to put them in that that's how we do it. Now, here's the other thing I would really recommend. This will save your butt on the underwriting, like once they're approved. Get everybody to put it in with their banking information on EFT monthly with the approval to draft first payment.
Can you repeat that?
Get them to put it in as a bank draft, like an EFT monthly instead of monthly pay, like put it on EFT. And get the bank information, all that, and then click on the button that says approval to draft. Like, make sure you tell them, say, hey, that you can pick a date any day, the 1st through the 28th, that you want this to draft. But the first payment, as soon as it's approved, will draft. Are we good to draft the first payment? Yes.
Yeah, I did know that. You've got to get the first payment at
Mhm.
the time.
Well, you don't have to get the first payment that way, but you can get permission to draft the first payment. But if you put it on monthly, they're going to require you to collect 2 months, or they're going to have to call into LifeNet themselves and pay 2 months upfront. So this way it saves them not having to pay 2 months upfront, and it's on auto draft from a bank. So it's not something they're going to forget to pay. It's not something that they're going to, change cards because their card got stolen and forget to update it. It's just coming out of their bank.
So
So
if you get
that
it
would
set
be
up-
just coaching your clients to have it set up that way is going to save you and save them.
Okay.
And speaking from a district standpoint, guys, the policies that require an EFT form after the fact and they don't get banking information while submitting the app, 62% of those go not taken. So you're 62% more or less likely to sell that policy if you don't get the banking info.
And if
Got
they
it.
don't have a bank account, we do run into some younger people that they do Cash App. Get a link for Chime and just say, hey, Chime accounts are free to set up. You can go to I don't know what, Walgreens here. You can go to a Walgreens and deposit money into it. You don't even have to have a bank to deposit. Set this up, get me the bank account and routing number. I already have the address. And I mean, it doesn't cost them anything. It's not like a regular bank where they've got to put $100 in to start the account. They literally need nothing to start it. Anybody can set up a Chime with no money. So that's
it's
how
a- it's a
that's how we
bank-
fix that problem.
So it's a bank account alternative, right?
It's a bank account, but it's online banking. It's like, well, the other one that has the option of doing that is Credit Karma has a version of that too. But
You
I'm
had
assuming
mentioned that you have a hard copy application. What kind of information are you asking them?
it's everything that's on. So I have 2 of them. I have one for everything but or graded death, and then I have a graded death one, and it literally asks everything you need for the application on it. And then I have a separate page for the banking information.
What's the grading death?
Graded death.
Graded death. That's new to me.
Okay, so graded death is it's anybody 18 to 80 can qualify for it. They are between 5,000 and 30,000. We call it a final expense policy. It is not, it is paid to a beneficiary, not to a funeral home. So it can be used for whatever final expenses they want. You just do a little needs analysis with them and find out like if they want to be buried, if they want to be cremated, if there's any, if they owe any money anywhere. You also include, there's a percentage, and it's different per state. So you just want to look up how much the percentage of medical final expenses on average are for that age group. So like if they're getting the policy and they're in their 50s, you want to do anything 50 to 80 or something like that. And kind of just see what the average is, include that in to kind of find out where they need to be, $15,000 or whatever,
Mhm.
10,000. And if they can't afford a lot, do a 5,000 on them. Something is better than nothing.
Mhm.
5,000 could pay for a cremation. But that is a whole life policy. So when you go into your applications, and go back to that.
Yeah, I've got a big presentation in 2 weeks in front of community, a number of community people on life. So I need to get really educated. Really.
Okay, so let me just show you. Life. Okay, so under whole life, it's gonna be your top one, graded death
Oh,
benefit.
gotcha. I haven't done a permanent or a whole life yet. I've just
Okay.
done simple and an IUL. I
So
think.
it falls under whole life because they can if they have an emergency come up and they can take it doesn't increase in cash value, but they can take out what they've put in. It has a cash value. And then I believe, I could be wrong about this, but I believe that at age 100, it'll just pay out.
Yeah, that's what I understand as well.
Mm.
At 100. Yeah, if you're still alive at 100, you get whatever's in there.
So, and I don't know how Farmers New World Life feels about this, but the other thing about this, because it has cash value and because of what kind of policy it is, they can, once they have hit the where it's paid in full, they can stop making payments and still keep the policy.
Yep. Yep.
So I always advise to them, and then I mean, we have obviously haven't gotten to anybody that's like that, but it is in my my plan that anybody that's coming up on that we would let them know, like, hey, you have 6 months left and then this will be paid in full. Do you want to stop payments and then just facilitate that for them when it comes to that time? So doing it during their
Do you have a good
farmer friendly
number of
review.
you have a good number of grandparents that get it for their grandkids? The book of business I'm buying is, I mean, man, they're in their 80s. Majority of our customers seem to be 65 plus. So I have been thinking on how to segue into that when I do have customers in here.
That are over, yeah. So yes, and we have sold some IULs to grandparents. Like, it's especially if they start talking about, oh, I've got this new grandbaby, and but that's a good segue for it. Or if you're talking about, hey, we do a life insurance policy with every quote, and you see their age, or their age, and say, I know that we can't get that in place for you, but do you have any children or grandchildren that we can do that for? And sometimes they're, yeah, let's see what you've got. And if not, then I just say to them, hey, let me at least show you what this looks like, because I'm not doing my job if I don't show you. And this is such an amazing policy. Most people don't really even know what it's about. And then I start talking to them about the benefits of it being, tax free and all of that stuff. And then you can do it where they pay in on it until the kid is whatever age. So when you're illustrating it, showing it to them, where you illustrate that they pay until they're 30 years old or something. And then the kid can either take over at that point paying it or not, but they can take their money back out, and then it was a free investment. So they can put $30 or
the grandparents can take the money back out?
Yep.
Really? Because they own the policy.
Yes.
Gotcha. So when you say that you provide a life quote for every policy or every customer, are you quoting term, permanent, or the IUL? I mean, which one do you?
It really just depends on how open they are to giving us information on a needs analysis. But at the very least, we quote a simple term or a graded death, to just give them an option if they're trying to get off the phone quick or stuff like that. But the ones that we can actually like have conversations with, we really try to evaluate what they need.
So the needs analysis, is that like DIME? I haven't used the needs analysis yet.
Mhm.
I was never really trained. I had a mentor who just kind of just went me through, took me through the policy. So the needs
Mhm.
analysis is at the DIME, the
Yeah.
debts, income, mortgage expenses.
Yeah. So there's that way, but then there's also the Tommy quick way of doing it. So like if you do want to, like if you're looking for a value term or something for them, like they've got young kids. So say somebody like in their 30s, they've got young kids, they've got a wife, they're more than likely going to need a value term, at
Yeah.
least a value term, maybe a value term and an IUL.
Yeah.
But in that case, one of the quickest ways to kind of find how much they're going to need is to talk to them about this. Tell them in 1980, they recommended that you have 6 times your annual income, or was it 8? Maybe it was 8. Anyway, in
Thought it
your
was
annual
10. Thought it was 10.
no, not 10 yet. So in
Okay.
1980, I think it was 8 times your annual income in life insurance. Fast forward to 2000, 20 years later, now they recommend that you need 10 times your annual income. And then, you fast forward again and tell them, okay, so if that's the case, what do you think you'd need now? Well, truth be told, it's more like 15 to 20 times. Most people say 12 because they're 8, 10, 12. It's more like 15 to 20, and because of inflation and cost, all of this stuff. So then you kind of get a number, plug it into your calculator and say, this is what it says you need. They usually will come down, oh, I think $1 million is enough, Okay, cool. Now you have a place to start writing. That is a simple way to do it if they don't have time to go through a whole DIMES needs analysis
Okay.
with you.
Okay. Well, I'll let somebody else ask a question or two. I've kind of hijacked it.
You're all good. Jesse, Josiah, Jason, what you got?
I asked all the questions for them.
Jesse, don't go shy on me now.
What? Me go shy? No, I'm watching time because I got the Medicare meeting here too. So I'm like, do I need to ask questions right this second? Or can I just go through and do it on the back end and email her if I have questions?
You absolutely can. Yeah, absolutely. Email me anytime. Like if you, and I think that it's good. The only thing I ask of anybody that communicates with me is that you stay positive. I don't, like we were talking before, I was talking with Keith about, I'm not in any of those farmers groups, Facebook groups or any of that stuff. I think it's really important to keep your mind in a safe place, a positive place. You can get bogged down with all of that crap and people say, and I'm sorry about this crap, but you can get really bogged down with people's negativity and what they're assuming is happening, and oh, it's too hard to do this, or it's this or whatever. And I know everybody's all been out of shape about what we're going to be paid, and life insurance is paying the same. I just say sell life insurance, but if you want to contact me and communicate with me, I'm a positive person. I'm very self-motivated. So that's just the only thing I want people in my circle that are the same way.
You were going to get along great, Rhiley. We will. I'm with you.
Just a quick question, Rhiley, though. When you're buying leads, you're buying home and auto, or just
the leads I purchased. So I purchased from Smart Financial, and I purchased from EverQuote. And I just get auto leads, and I don't get the best of the best. I get a mix. I get some that are more challenging because we do sell a lot of Bristol West, and it does take service work. It does take keeping up with them, but a lot of them, if you take the time, if you're not trying to sell, if you take the time with them, you will create good customers out of them. They just need somebody to educate them on how their insurance works. But I get a mix. Now I do partner with guerrilla marketing for my home leads. And they're exclusive with them. So nobody else is getting them. They mail out, hard copy mail out 60 days before a home renewal on a home that was purchased the year prior, 1 year prior, no multi-year, because most of those people got insurance randomly. So they send out a mailer with my picture on it. We in our office, anybody that comes into the office and does a free quote with us for anything gets put into a monthly drawing for a local business of some kind. We do $100 gift card to restaurant or something supporting local businesses. So it says it on that mailer as well. And then they send those out 60 days prior, and then 30 days prior, and then they start calling those people. And when they get them on the phone, they send them straight to us. Like they call us and say, and they don't, they say, hey, Rhiley, you know, I've got such and such on the phone. They got your mailer. And they are ready to talk about their home.
Is that EverQuote you're talking about?
No, it's called guerrilla marketing.
Guerrilla marketing. Okay.
That works
It's
for you.
just for homes and nobody else, and it's all local to us, so it's all people that can come in. It's within like so many miles of us. I think it's 20 miles from us. But that's the only place we get home leads from. I mean, other than when it shows up on their auto that they rent or own, and we always try to cross sell everything. So, but I don't pay for home leads. I don't pay for life leads.
How was that guerrilla marketing working? I started that like a month ago too. So I'm just starting that process. So I haven't started seeing the results, but has that worked pretty well?
So far, but we've only been doing this 6 months. So I have heard nothing but good things from people that have used it consistently.
Okay. Yeah, they called me, so I'm like, sure, let's try this.
Yeah. I always research everything that I mean, because you know, they inundate you with wanting to help you with this and that together. So I research everything. So that is working well. One that I got a golf course that contacted me, and it's a private golf course. And so they put like an ad at the bottom of each page and I'm not a golfer. I apologize if you are. So all of the holes or whatever, I guess there's like a page for each that kind of tells you what you need to do for that, right? The bottom of each, there's somebody they partner with, or that they would recommend that their members go to for whatever. So a lot of those members, I guess, keep those, and because they want to be treated, you know, they pay a lot of money for stuff. So because they want to be treated exceptionally, you're in partnership with them that says if these people call you, you prioritize them, and they know that. So that is beneficial as well. And those lead to a lot of what we've got has led to a lot of commercial home, lots of high-end autos, and stuff like that. We've got some Haggerty stuff out of it too, because they've got a lot of
Antiques and collector cars. Yeah.
So that would be one that I would say is if you can find a private golf course that does that kind of program, I wouldn't just go with any random golf course because I don't know that it means as much, but when those members are paying so much for their golf membership and they know that, hey, this agency is in here, I'm gonna call them and they're gonna put me at the top of their list and treat me like, I'm important. And they want that. So I'm finding that is smart marketing, effective marketing. So. And that's where one of our biggest life insurance.
Riley, I'm gonna jump over to another living benefits of the IUL webinar. I thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah.
And I got a smart financial call, so I guess I'm gonna change gears.
Well, it's nice talking to
Thank
you.
you so much, Riley, and congratulations on all your success. It's definitely worth it. Thank you.
You guys can do it too.
Thank you, Rhiley.
Thank you.
Good morning. This is Dad with Farmers. How may I help you?
See.